We should be live. What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Friday stream. Little market review as we head into the weekend and wrap up what has been a rather, I would say it's almost at a crawl, really slow pace for the past 2 full days, even a little bit of Wednesday as well. With Bitcoin pulling back, that's going to happen. It definitely stalls alts. And even as Bitcoin was moving up for the beginning of the week, really it's kind of been, in my opinion, a hands-off or not really an interesting market to be wanting to trade mid-caps and Binance coins ever since Bitcoin had that violent break of 4,100. Right, so I know action-wise it's been slow. It's been very slow for me too on the trading front, right? EOS and Tron are like the only 2 positions I'm actively managing, and I am scoping a new Bitcoin play, but quite honestly, I'm sitting on the sidelines waiting for that to develop as well. I want to go over just this map again for anyone that missed the stream. I know there's a couple of people, it looks like, that never verified and haven't been able to view the streams. So I want to get everyone caught up and just thoughts as kind of this price action is developing. Still not the most enticing. I was maybe teased or I felt like buying today. I still kind of do looking at this price action, but quite honestly, I want to wait for 4,800. I think I can get that this weekend. I think that'd be a way better place to build into a new long. And then also I want to look at EOS, this play which is still alive for me and I still quite like. You can tell that there's been nothing going on when I start playing around with trend lines. I still think EOS looks attractive. I just don't expect these coins, EOS, ADA, which actually got like little spikes today, I think, and when I say little, I mean really small. They were small, like 2 or 3% pops on them today, and then they kind of retraced. They're just going to track what Bitcoin's doing generally. So I'm not too excited about ADA or EOS or Tron, but those are really, still the only coins that I'm tracking. The one constructive piece for a lot of alts is we are finally back at cycle lows for a lot of coins that we traded in February, that I traded in February, that we traded in March as well together. If anyone followed along with the research, right? There was like 15 setups that were all along this cycle low, and a lot of coins have pretty much retraced all the way back there. Even coins that ran a really, pretty massive amount with the Loom and the Quantstamp plays that were running 60-70%, a lot of them are getting pretty close to their cycle lows again. All right, so that has me interested. That has me a little bit excited. I bet LRC is probably all the way back down from its run up from cycle low, first target. It's like every single coin so far that has ran from cycle lows, it looks like is making its way back down. As that develops this weekend, I do think there's going to be more action either this weekend or next week. All right, so I know the past couple days have been slow, especially today. I'm not going to fire charts just to fire them, but I'm planning for that, and trust me, if the market suggests it and if the market gives that opportunity, I will be looking to swing alts. That's what I want to cover today. The only other topic that I want to cover is a bullish case for Bitcoin that Arthur brought up, that the Delphi guys brought up, and that Travis Kling brought up. If you're unfamiliar with Travis Kling, he's the CIO of Ikigai, one of the sharpest hedge funds, I think, in the space, or one of the sharpest, I guess, portfolio managers, I think, in the space. His research is always really good, and they all kind of raise this exact same point in terms of how Bitcoin fits in with the global macro market. I'll dumb it down a little bit, explain it in a couple sentences, and see if it makes sense. It's not anything that makes you say, oh man, I should be, buying right now, or I should be selling right now, but it does kind of put things in context for the next 3 and 6 months to a year, and I think that's really good to keep in mind, even if you are a short-term trader, to be thinking out, what are the big driving factors at play here? What are where do the probabilities stack up of what 2019 could look like, right? It's just kind of developing an understanding of the forces that are going to be driving the market and kind of what that might lean the probabilities towards, right? A bullish case. So I'll talk about that, but really, other than that, guys, going to be regularly scheduled programming. And yeah, I'll get right to it. Shout out to everyone that's in here on a Friday. CBPL, Sirius, Ryan, Nanad. What's going on, guys? Ryan, I can definitely talk about wallets. It'll be quick. Danielle, Hans, Kilgore, David, Six Stacks. Ryan, the only note there, I'm going to cover that at the very end. But I definitely will. I'll give my take. No problem. I definitely have an opinion on wallets from experience. All right, let's dive in. So Bitcoin, in a very unexciting market. I wouldn't even say this is exciting, but I think Bitcoin's probably the most interesting to watch this weekend. And I'm going to think that a lot in a market where alts aren't moving, right? The reason being, you guys that have been with me have heard me say this 1,000 times probably. Bitcoin is driving everything that's happening, not only in the Bitcoin market, not only in the crypto market, but as it relates to alts and whether or not I should be trading alts or whether or not you should be looking to swing alts. It all comes down to what is Bitcoin doing and what is that going to cause alts to do, right? So this is kind of the driving factor of what I want to be watching this weekend. If I'm thinking about a map, right? If we think about our map going into April, 4100 break was great. I took profits way too early and missed a majority of this move, but I still like being long until this level, right? 54.50 is touched. That's where we pull back from. It's just the first high time frame level where you can expect anything. And now we're kind of back in this vacuum of space. You can think of it as a range, but really we haven't traded and formed a range low yet. You can just say this is a support, there's resistance, so there is a price range there, but structurally I don't think it's a range. Really, we're in this gap, right? From 6,200 down to 4,300. This is the only level of importance, and that's where we stop. So when we're in between 44 to 50, 54, I think it's rather kind of untested levels. That's why I don't want to be doing too much kind of poking around in here and trying to play something smaller time frame. If I am going to play something smaller time frame, I would prefer it to be around levels that I'm very familiar with or levels that are established and I think have significance if they break or hold and things like that. Right? We're kind of in this vacuum of there's just not a lot going on here. Right? I think the price action that is most useful is going to be the levels that were used kind of in the last week. That's probably the most helpful. So what I like to do, I like to use fibs. Doesn't matter if you use them. Oftentimes the exact same or I should say different approaches will give you the same levels, and that goes for a lot of technical analysis, right? I think, if you use indicators, great. If you use plain price action, great. Whatever your tool is, that's fine. Just understand why you're using it. Anyways, I like to use fibs. The levels that I'm looking to for a pullback based on this move, right? Swing high, swing low, up to that swing high. I'm looking at possible levels of retracement now from the top of the move before price continues in the direction of the trend, right? That's what these fib supports are looking for, right? And it's not so much a guarantee. The exact same way a support or resistance level is never like, this has to be resistance, or this has to be support, but it does allow you to develop a really clear rule set. And also, for me, understand a couple high time frame levels that if I can bid at, I would know exactly where I'm wrong, right? I can be confirmed on those levels, things like that. So based on that, and also looking at this really kind of as this little support, you can see on both these wicks, I would like for price to dip just a little bit lower down into this range. I would like to bid 4,800 or the 4,850. I think that'd be attractive. I think still kind of sticking with, given the strength of this breakout, I like to view Bitcoin as very similar to the 6,200 breakdown. It's not always going to be the exact same, but when there is a move this strong, and if you look historically at some of Bitcoin's just serious breakouts, right? If you always kind of sit and just wait for this perfect retest all the way down here, sure, we could retrace the entire move. I'm not sure we do. I think the likelihood of that happening and me actually getting a buy filled down here, I would love that, right? 41 to 4,400. I think that's just way lower probability, so I'm going to kind of look for the higher level. It's the only reason. I know I had this level highlighted last week. I'm just kind of updating my view, and I think that's probably less likely, right? Obviously not advice, just trying to pass along kind of what I'm seeing here, what I'm looking at. So this is that first level I like as a bid, as long as that holds, right? So what I'm looking for here is 4-hour and daily candle closes above this 47.90 level, right? That would be ideal for me. Quite honestly, obviously I want the daily candle to look like that, closes above, wicks through are fine. If we do move below this level, this is kind of the lowest I'll let Bitcoin drop here before I'll probably wait. And I'd be wrong trying to buy this dip if price starts closing or getting down here, right? Then I'd probably sit out and I'd actually wait for lower prices, or maybe think that I don't know, maybe Bitcoin does retrace the whole move. But this to me is kind of the first area, this first zone of 46.50, 46.30 up to about 47.95 of kind of the first zone that I find pretty attractive for a dip buy, given that we touched the first high time frame resistance ever since the breakout. I think a pullback would be healthy. I just don't think we retrace the entire move. I think that'd be pretty strange, and honestly, I'd have a lot of questions and concerns. If we actually retrace the entire move, I start thinking maybe I shouldn't be a buyer here, right? If demand and bids couldn't even kind of keep price up past a week or past a month, a full retrace of a breakout probably isn't the best sign. Right, so that's what I'm looking to for Bitcoin. That's just a rough plan. Where would I be wrong? Like I said on these ideas, this is going to have me a little bit worried, but that'd be fine. This is where I'm definitely wrong, and I'd probably look to bail, right, and reevaluate. As this happens, and if kind of my view does play out here and we do move down to the 4,800, 47, 46, it does not necessarily guarantee that alts are going to continue to be stagnant or continue to be kind of capped. But I do think, based on how alts have been trading, and we've seen it now for the past 24, 48 hours, alts can move up while Bitcoin moves down, but generally, vast majority of the time, that's just not going to be the case. So as we move into this, I'm in no real rush today or even maybe tomorrow, depending on how fast Bitcoin gets down here, if my view kind of plays out perfectly, right? I'm in no rush to be scooping up alts or to feel like I have to FOMO into things I'm going to miss out. I just don't feel that at all. And it's not like a gut feeling, basing that on market relationships. Right, so perfect world for me, Bitcoin dips down here, I get to buy the dip, and as this is happening, I imagine large caps and ETH and EOS and ADA and everything kind of pick up momentum with Bitcoin. Right. Serious laugh in terms of Wyckoff. I don't, to be quite honest. So you normally set hard stops the invalidation zone or wait for a 4-hour daily close. Sometimes it sneaks through at 4 a.m. If you don't have hard stops, easy to erect. Scott, if I'm margin trading, it's going to be a hard stop. But I don't know. I'd definitely be a little bit looser. Oftentimes, I really am kind of waiting for that daily close. That's one of those things where I have the luxury of doing this full time and spending this much time. I know some people don't. So, it's probably wise to have stops on. So maybe, either a smaller position size or playing it wider. It's why I like to play it with 4-hour kind of daily. To me, rarely, very, very rarely is like waiting for a close end up leading to me getting nuked or leading to a level getting nuked, right? Even if I don't have a trade on. Very, very rarely does that happen, right? But yeah, if you can't beat your computer, definitely a hard stop. Serious laugh, just in general terms, not specifically Wyckoff. Quite honestly, serious. The most study and most thought I give to that is really just thinking about it in terms of macro cycles and volume and direction of the trend. Right? I don't spend as much stuff. I would say Wyckoff's kind of the classical accumulation distribution schemes. To me, playing things level by level, understanding, very clearly when there's a trend break or when there's a structure change, and then, volume profiles and confirmation. I don't study, that too deeply or have I'm not the definitive source there by any means. Right? To me, it doesn't come up too much. I think it's 100% helpful, right? I understand it, and I could definitely point it out in a chart. The thing is, I think it gets thrown around so much on Twitter of looking for distribution schemes on 15-minute and then looking for distribution schemes on the daily, when almost every single thing that I do can almost be simplified down to literally just trading horizontal levels. To me, I guess the best analogy I can come up with is I like to use RSI sometimes, and someone can point out a div, right, a bullish divergence or a hidden div or whatever it is, over and over and over. And I just don't use them. But quite honestly, you can really kind of come to almost the exact same view just adding something like the 50 line on the RSI or different things like that. So to me, I don't give too much weight to it. Yeah. As it relates to majors, guys, so what I'm thinking here, this play for me is definitely less exciting than the beginning of the week and the one wick up, which I thought we were going to break out on. But so far, I do still want to be a little, I'm being pretty loose here with EOS, even with my view that majors and alts generally are just not too exciting right now. Even based on that, I just think that structurally Bitcoin still looks fine. I think the Bitcoin will kind of do quite well if it dips down and then picks back up, right? This is still kind of what I'm anticipating. Obviously, I would have to change my mind if we start closing below here. And then I think, if we can fully retrace the move, it's probably not a good thing. But so far, my view is I still want to be moving quite slow with these alts. I think EOS going into June 1st, I just think that's such a nice narrative combined with as long as price is staying above this zone that's been created, right? This resistance, it's already flipped to support, and now price is consistently kind of closing. We had a weekly close above, and all week we've traded above this block. To me, I don't want to bail on this, even if the macro is maybe hinting that this is a less exciting play. So this is kind of the one alt for me that I'm leaving on in terms of upside capture. If Bitcoin turns around, if alts turn around, right, I imagine this one will do quite well. So I am very comfortable, and I think if anyone is trading EOS, and it goes for any alt right now, if you're trading Bitcoin Cash, if you're trading ADA, whatever it is, you should acknowledge and understand the risk that if Bitcoin does move down, if Bitcoin does continue to dip, the prospects of your alt moving up are probably quite low, right? And there's also the risk now that this thing could get stopped out. That's something that, to me, I want to keep one or two plays on to have that upside capture in the event or in the chance that Bitcoin and alts can move up. And this is still that play for me. Right? Had a lot of success with majors in April so far. And a lot of it has come from moving slow and kind of having conviction in major levels, letting them run to where they should run to kind of put them at parity or put them at relatively the same spot as other majors. And I think EOS, if you compare it, I don't have the actual momentum or kind of the past 30-day statistical number, but if you look at this compared to ADA or how Litecoin is ran or Bitcoin Cash, I think that this swing high, or where we pretty much were at in January, I think that I would say this is one of the cheaper alts, and it's also just right above this nice daily, weekly support. So I'm still sticking with EOS. Just passing along my view there. Want to stay consistent there. It is not advice to be in that with me, but that's still the major I like the most. I'm just trying to be transparent there. Tron was the play we looked at yesterday. This was a short swing, and I was so excited for this to turn into a bigger play this week. We just couldn't get it, right? Took partial profits at 10%. Wish I would have taken them all, because now we're back at break even. And the setup is still here for Tron, but now kind of on the flip side of that, right? If my expectation is that alts in general, including Bitcoin and mid caps and large caps in general, look a little bit shaky, and I think they're capped, and I think Bitcoin probably dips and moves down a little bit. Given that I'm already keeping the EOS trade on, right? That's kind of my upside if alts do well. I'm not going to add back into this Tron play, so I'm going to sit flat on Tron, even though it is literally the exact same trade as we played at the end of last week, right? Which in a few days turned out to be a nice 10-15% swing. The idea here is this is the yearly open, and as long as this range is holding, I want to respect the range. So from a setup, from a micro perspective, right, if I was just looking at Tron, and this was an isolated asset, let's say this is a stock or something, or whatever asset it is, to me, this is kind of a bread and butter setup for me. Right, a daily level marked has some significance. It's either a yearly level, or it's a cycle low, or it's an all-time high. Right, it's a daily support that carries kind of extra weight. As long as dailies are closing above that range support, I want to be in it. Where would I be wrong on that? Right here, entering pretty close to where I'd be wrong, and then aiming for two pretty clear levels, swing high right here, giving myself a nice risk reward. Not a risk reward that I'm just looking at and saying I want a 3 or a 2 risk reward, but something kind of structurally the market is presenting with also a nice daily confluence. So I like the setup still. I like this a lot. I could look at this setup all day, but going into the weekend, guys, it's been a boring week, and it's like everyone kind of has the itch, I think, including myself, to want to be active and want to hunt for trades when it's a boring 2 or 3 days, I'm kind of resisting that urge. So I think I could find a swing today. I think anything is really pushing it. I'm still scrolling through Binance mid-cap plays. Everything is like up 1 or 2%, down 3 or 2%. And that's just been the story for 3 days. That sucks. I know I want to be active, but it doesn't make sense to push it at those times. It makes a lot of sense to kind of push and add risk and be active when we have a month like March, when we have a month like mid-January, right? When there's a week and everyone is moving alts, I'm targeting swing highs and I'm moving into pretty much any alt that's long support. When we're doing this, you sit on your hands and you make sure that you're not just throwing money away by being impatient. Right? At least that's my approach, guys. I'm just trying to pass along what helps me. I think over the long run, that should help you as well. That's all I have from a technical analysis perspective. All the market points I wanted to cover. Like I said, the uplifting or kind of the exciting part for me, and I think for a lot of you as well, is the plays, especially if you guys were with me in November, December, September, and any time this year. A lot of the plays, the cycle low plays, are right back down at levels that were very, very attractive for January, for February, and started to move quite well. You have ELF, DOC, DNT, almost any alt that we traded, like literally almost any single one. We have GoChain, which was literally a buy at its all-time low down here, right along 492, right? What were our two targets on that? First swing high, second swing high. I mean, it was like 10 or 15 of these exact same setups in a row. And the nice part is a lot of them are right back at that same level, right? So the opportunity in the setups market-wide, I think, are coming together. Now it's kind of that last step of I want to be patient. I want to see, I want to see one of these things turn the corner. And, maybe it's Go. If Go turns the corner, then I have, 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 on my watch list right away that I can flick to and say, okay, alts are respecting their cycle lows. Go moved up to its swing high. I'm ready to move into LRC. I'm ready to move into MFT. I'm ready. Like very, very quickly, you could kind of pick out 3 or 4 alts or exactly what we did in February and March and take advantage of those, right? To me, it's not about kind of moving first and trying to guess. So I'm excited for the weekend. We have a lot of alts that are back at continuation levels or cycle low levels. And yeah, guys, I think it definitely could be, I hope it's more action-packed next week. Right? It's obviously market dependent. The bullish case that I wanted to describe for Bitcoin, Ryan, before I answer your question on wallets, have not forgot about you, is if you guys listen to the podcast with Arthur, and you don't need to by any means, I found it really insightful. Incredibly smart guy. One of the things that he talks about a lot in the interview at the end, Juan is at cycle low. One of the things he talks about in the interview at the end is how Bitcoin relates to the global macro market. And macro gets thrown around a lot, and people say, is Bitcoin risk on? That gets thrown around a lot. But something that I think everyone should at least be aware of going into this year, now that the U.S. central bank and central banks really around the world are generally more dovish, meaning they're looking to kind of support more and possibly print more money pretty much for the rest of the year, be pretty supportive of the economy, don't really want to tighten things up and try to slow things down at all. They're quite weary and scared of doing that. That change in sentiment from them and from central banks really all around the world is a shift that happened in Q1 2019. And Travis Kling brings this up. I'll try to post the interview in the newsroom. Delphi brings this up in the podcast that I have. And then Arthur said it. And all three of them really said the same thing. Not long-term. I mean, long-term it does play a role. But specifically for 2019, that is something that's noteworthy. And that's not me just, saying hopium. And it's not me just saying, this has to be a bull run and we don't find new lows. That's not what I mean by this at all. I do mean that, if all three of them are saying that, and I've thought this as well, but it's nice to have kind of hear them all agree, that is definitely good for risk on assets. Serious laugh. Yes, it's very good for risk on assets. What that means is if the market and central banks are being supportive, are willing to print money, are willing to ease, or at least not willing to tighten, right? They don't want to slow down the economy. Generally, that allows risk appetite to be higher for money managers. It allows risk appetite to be higher for the average retail investor, which plays a smaller role. But in the markets, if investors can take more risk, that means they can look to things like, these IPO deals, these hot tech IPO deals. They can look at properties, and cryptocurrency is definitely one of those buckets, right? It should act as a hedge. I know everyone wants it to be a hedge, gold in the future, digital gold, but for right now, crypto is still one of the riskiest assets. This is like up there with venture capital, and a risk-on environment is definitely good for crypto. And all three of them mentioning that, it does not mean we're going to moon, but I think structurally from a global perspective, I think that is good for everyone to understand. Even if you don't focus on stocks or on FX, right? Just having kind of that general idea of what that means, how that could affect price for the rest of the year, and generally how kind of the rest of the traditional assets and traditional fund managers and traditional markets will play a role in Bitcoin. Right? Just wanted to bring that up. If you're listening to those interviews or if you saw the Delphi stuff, kind of string that together. That's what I'm cluing in on. Right? Other than that, guys, like I said, no charts. I plan to have a lot of charts either this weekend or early next week. A lot of those cycle low plays are looking so good. What do we have? Ryan, you had a question about wallets. Honestly, this is the wallet that I would recommend for a few different reasons. This is a wallet I would recommend for a few different reasons. I have a Nano S. I've never had any problems with it. I know some people have said I updated to this thing and it got bricked. The really nice thing here is I have 100% broken, or one of these things has broken on me like 2 or 3 times. And if you have your seed phrase backed up in a safe or whatever it is scary, but I've done it. You can recover your old kind of device on a new one. They're cheap enough. I think they're $60 or $50 or something. And it's really easy. It handles Bitcoin. It handles every single alt that's an ETH token or has a lot of alt apps. I would use a ledger. I think it's supported the most. I think they're probably doing the most with Bluetooth, which I don't fully trust yet. Some people swear by Trezor though, but I honestly prefer a ledger. Just from personal preference, I know that I can break it. I know that I still won't lose my money if I break it. And incredibly supportive team. And if anyone ever had a problem in the group with their ledger, I have a contact there, so I can reach out and someone can help you as well. It's kind of a nice little added perk. Yeah, I would definitely look at a ledger. Other people talk about Trezors and say they're the best and they're more secure. Go for it. The thing that I found out with this is I think they're a lot more user friendly, and I think they add a lot more. It just looks like they're kind of doing more development with adding apps and things like that. So that's why I like Ledger, but you can get a Trezor. I've heard great things about both. I personally prefer Ledger. Nanad, glad you enjoyed. Tarek, how'd you get into crypto and when? Just curious. It would have been early 2017, early mid 2017. How did I get into crypto? I was about to go to grad school to get a master's in finance degree, master's of applied finance, and I was going to make money. I was mining, and in California, it was really inefficient to mine, but all of a sudden I had some ETH, had some money, and was managing some friends' money, and I saw some opportunity in ICOs and also trading, and we did very, very well, obviously, with the ICO market and trading, and built a community and shared stuff on Telegram and Twitter, and kind of never stopped, man. I dropped out of grad school after about 4 days, which was costly, but it was the right decision. It's exactly what I was looking at. Ryan, cool. Good question. Who else we got? Scott, am I streaming this weekend? I don't plan to. I try not to stream on the weekends. I really do try to get away on Saturday and Sunday. And to be completely honest, I will probably still be at my desk for like 8 hours and still working here and definitely still staring at the market because I have a trade on. But I'm going to try not to stream. It helps me get ahead with so much other stuff. I think there's like 10 people or 20 people that have DM'd me in the group and want their payments updated or have a question about something, and I just haven't got back to it. So Saturday is like the one day I can kind of unbacklog myself. But usually I get the itch and then I stream again on Sunday. So I try not to stream, Scott, but I can't make any promises. I'll probably end up working. I think that's it, guys. Pretty relaxed stream. It's a very it's not that sleepy of a market, but we're in between. We're in this vacuum of a level where we're still below the immediate resistance for Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin gets exciting if we start closing above 55.60. I don't want to put everyone to sleep with Bitcoin. That is still could happen, right? A close above 55.60, a close above 5600. I think that to me gives me very high conviction, the same way that a close above 4100 did, that we move to kind of this next high time frame level. So I do want to be watching out for that, but until then, I want to be respecting this resistance and looking for a dip. I'd rather be buying closer to where I'm wrong, as opposed to kind of just jumping in at this mid-range level. Sure, it could move up without me, but I'm willing to kind of wait and be patient. Alts, as a macro big picture, not looking at DNT specifically yet, although DNT looks good, I think a lot of alts are starting to look good finally, and this is probably the first time in 10 or 12 days. So either this weekend or next week, I do expect there to be more action. I will definitely be more active if I think that's the case. There's a massive lineup of alts that we had some good success with. I know there's one or two that didn't move. I think DNT for me was always kind of 10% away from its target, but there's 2 or 3 or 4 that we Quantstamp, I think we played like 2 or 3 times. Continuation play, cycle low play, right? 2 cycle low plays. There's LRC, which is back at cycle low. Loom's almost back at cycle low. The Go Chain play was almost perfect, right? There's a lot of these coins which not only now, I think a lot of people understand the cycle low framework, but a lot of people are also familiar now with trading them, with understanding where you'd be wrong and things like that. So I'm very excited if that opportunity presents itself. I think we'll do quite well with that. I think the market's kind of sleeping on that. So I'm excited for that, if that lets itself play out. In terms of majors, you guys know the trade that I have on currently, that I'm actively trading this weekend and watching, is EOS. I'm not so excited about it, but it's my upside play, right? If the market does move up, if Bitcoin can move up, if alt can move up, this is my upside capture. If it moves down, I'm prepared to kind of take that risk and manage it. Cool. Serious laugh, will we see days like those again? I think we definitely will. Based on, and I talked with Arthur for just a moment after the stream and kind of expanded on the cycles, and I've talked, Ari has a really good podcast with Pomp about that. And I think there's definitely going to be cycles like we had in 2017 or 2018, maybe not the entire market cap growing by like 35x, right? Like maybe we won't see, insane multiples again like that, but I do still think we see massive swings, and I still think we see very, very violent bull markets, and I still think we see blow off tops, and I still think we see very violent bear markets probably a few more times, right? Bitcoin and these crypto assets not only market kind of the forces at play that are driving these markets. It's mostly retail, right? So it's very emotional investing. Since there's not a lot of institutional investors, which dampen volatility because they're longer term players, since it's more retail, that drives momentum. The other thing you have to consider, and I didn't think about this until Ari said it, was Bitcoin and a lot of these assets are actually kind of technologically, they're not built to have massive swings. But think about Bitcoin, for example, right? Like when Bitcoin starts crashing, not only do miners, mine less, and eventually they came back online, but then you also have literally the value is worth less as the price goes down, right? So it's not like a company where there's like a book value and revenues, like literally the network value and the security and how valuable Bitcoin is literally goes down with the price. I know it sounds redundant, but in a way it's different. So what that leads to is, as Bitcoin's dropping, it almost does kind of make sense to be literally selling from a fundamental level, and the exact same thing to the upside, right? And a lot of those things are kind of hard coded into these assets. So until there are massive amounts of institutional investors, or at least a comparable rate to other assets, I think that most investors and traders here have a very short term time horizon, and they will sell when things are down, and they will buy when things are moving way higher. So until there's investors that are willing to kind of buy when things are cheap and sell when things are expensive, the institutional 5, 10, 15-year outlook, I imagine we still see a lot of swings. I'm not sure if we see 2017 30x every single token, but I still think we see multiples up and we see 60, 70% declines. All right, that's all I have, guys. Fun episode. I know we didn't cover too much trading stuff, but there's that's all I have to work with. There's not a lot going on in the market. That's all I have. Have a good Friday, guys. Enjoy yourselves. Get out from behind your computers. If there is a Bitcoin move, trust me, I'll be right here to talk about it. And this weekend, early next week, I'm quite excited about alt. I'm waiting for them to confirm, right? They might break down and maybe we have to wait another week. But based on where they're all sitting, right, in the event that Bitcoin can move up or in the event that a few of these can move up, I think a lot of opportunities are going to present themselves. I think we're going to be able to get pretty active. All right, that's all I got, guys. I'm out. Peace. See you guys this weekend.